videotape features the 2-3-4 thread Huskylock models 905 and 910, both extremely functional and versatile sergers. Stepping up to the Huskylock model 910, you will see an LCD window known as the Sewing Advisor. This Husqvarna Huskylock owner's video will take you step by step through the basic features of your new serger, including threading, plus all the techniques that make Huskylock serging so much fun. At the end of each technique, a stop sign will appear, signaling you to pause your VCR and try the demonstrated technique. The Huskylock Model 910 will be used throughout this videotape. Set your serger on a sturdy, flat surface. Your Huskylock has a handy accessory tray, which conveniently stores on top of the machine's bed. To remove, slide the tray back and to the left. You'll notice a lip on the back edge of the tray. When you put the tray back into place, this lip fits snugly against the back edge of the machine's bed. The accessory tray features an open compartment for storing your Huskylock's dust cover, plus a neat accessory box. This is your presser foot lift. It raises and lowers your presser foot. The foot can be raised to 2 positions. Push the presser foot lift back until you feel it click into the first position. This is the regular height for a raised presser foot. This also releases the tension dials, so you can effortlessly remove your work or pull your threads through the tension discs. For an extra high lift for accommodating thicker, loftier fabrics like fleece or terry cloth, push the lever all the way back until the lever stops. Your Husqvarna Huskylock sergers feature a free arm great for sewing cuffs, pant legs, and other hard-to-reach areas. To reveal the free arm, remove the flatbed cover. Place your hand underneath the cover and pull straight out and to the left. The imprinted arrows provide quick reference. Simply pull in the direction of the arrows. The power switch is located at the bottom right-hand side. The same switch controls both power and light. Push the foot control plug into the connector socket at the bottom right side of your serger. Turn your serger on. If leaving your serger unattended, turn the switch off. The Sewing Advisor on the Huskylock Model 910 is a handy LCD window displaying step-by-step advice for setting up your Huskylock. It's like having a built-in sewing teacher. Standard settings for 11 pre-programmed stitches and 6 different types of fabrics, covering most all your sewing needs, are displayed in the window. Or enter your own settings for your own fabric types and save the technique in one of the 50 memories. Let's learn more about the Sewing Advisor by reviewing its features. The best possible sewing advice for setting up your machine will be displayed in the LCD window. Your pre-programmed stitch and fabric selections are accessible by touching the Auto Mode button, or A. Memory Mode, or the M button, allows you to permanently enter your own settings into the machine's memory. While in Auto Mode, touch the Stitch Selection button, located above the drawing of a serger stitch, to select any of the 11 pre-programmed stitches. The Fabric Selection button is located above the picture of a fabric square. 6 types of fabric can be selected by touching the Fabric Selection button, again while in Auto Mode. To enter or alter settings, enter the Manual mode by touching the cursor or arrow button. Then scroll through the settings using either the Up, Plus button, or the Down, Minus button. All of these remarkable features will be explained in greater detail while you surge your way through this videotape. Proper threading is the single most important factor in successful serging. You'll find your Husqvarna Huskylock is very easy to thread. Master the correct threading before starting your first project. Always thread your Huskylock in the following sequence: upper looper, lower looper, right needle, and left needle. You can use most any type of thread on your serger. A good quality sewing thread is recommended. Cone thread may be the most economical due to the amount of thread. However, regular spools of sewing thread, large, small, or thin, as well as decorative threads, work equally as well. When using large cone thread, Be sure a plastic cone holder is on the spool pin, and then place your cone on top of the holder. This will help hold the cone of thread in place. For regular sewing thread or smaller spools, the plastic spool holder is not necessary. Place the spool directly on the spool pin. Use the spool cap to keep the spool in place and to prevent the thread from catching on the edges of the spool. Spools of specialty thread sometimes work loose during sewing, causing tangling or irregular feeding. To prevent this, place a spool net over the decorative thread as shown. This applies just enough tension on the thread for smoother feeding. To begin, open the front cover and expose your threading paths. To open the front cover, push to the right and pull the cover down toward you. Once open, you'll notice a convenient color-coded threading guide inside the front cover. The colors correspond with the loopers and needles. Extend the telescopic thread pull to its highest position. For a better understanding as to the function each thread plays in creating an overlock stitch, and to assist you in learning the threading paths, thread your Huskylock with colors which correspond with the tensions. Let's thread your Huskylock starting with the upper looper. Raise the presser foot. Turn your hand wheel toward you to bring your upper looper to its highest position. Draw the thread from the spool. Hold the thread up in front of the guide on the thread pole. Drop the thread in the guide from front to back. The thread will fall in front. Bring the thread down and snap it into the first guide located on top of the machine. Lay the thread in the upper looper tension discs, making certain the thread snaps in between the discs. Continue as illustrated on the inside front cover. Thread the eye of the upper looper. If needed, use the tweezers found in the accessory box to assist in your threading. Pull out 3 to 4 inches or 10 centimeters of thread and lay it underneath and behind the presser foot. This is the lower looper which you will thread next. Make certain your lower looper is to the far right. Bring the lower looper thread through the guide on the thread pole and snap it into the first guide on top of the machine. Lay the thread in the lower looper tension discs, making certain the thread snaps in between the discs. Continue threading guides 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now locate the self-threading lower looper lever. Push the lever in the direction of the arrow until the self-threading looper hole is directly in front of the lower looper eye. Thread your thread through both holes simultaneously. For ease of threading, you may want to use the tweezers provided. Pull the thread back, leaving approximately 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Lay the thread underneath and behind the presser foot. Turn the hand wheel toward you once, and the lower looper threader automatically returns to its original position. Now you will thread your needles, starting with the right. Raise the needles to their highest position by turning the hand wheel toward you. Draw the thread from the spool. Hold the thread up in front of the guide on the thread pole. Drop the thread in the guide from front to back. The thread will fall in front. Bring the thread down and snap it into the first guide located on top of the machine. Lay the thread between the thread tension disc, making certain your thread snaps into the disc. Pass the thread through the remaining guides for the appropriate needle. Make certain the thread passes through the guide just above the needle. Thread the needle, pulling 3 to 4 inches or 10 centimeters of thread through the eye and lay it underneath and behind the presser foot. Thread the left needle in the same manner. Again, pull 3 to 4 inches or 10 centimeters of thread through the eye. To complete your threading, gather all 4 threads and pull them through the machine. Place all 4 threads behind and underneath the presser foot. Close the front cover. Always be sure to close the front cover before sewing. Your Huskylock has a safety feature in which the machine will not sew with the front cover open. You're successfully threaded and ready to sew. If you're a Husqvarna Huskylock Model 910 owner, you can now rely upon the Sewing Advisor for step-by-step guidance. Or if you own a Model 905, consult your instruction book. The first step in using your Sewing Advisor is to select your language. 14 are available. The preset language is displayed in the LCD window when you turn your machine on. To select a different language, first turn off your machine. Simultaneously hold down the Auto Mode or A button and the cursor or arrow button and turn on the machine. Scroll through the available languages by touching the up or plus button or the down or minus button until the desired language appears. Then press the memory or M button to store your selection, even when the machine is turned off. Let's use the Sewing Advisor to serge a basic 4-thread overlock stitch using a woven medium-weight fabric. When you turn on your Huskylock Model 910, your Sewing Advisor will automatically be set for Auto A1 Woven Medium. Auto means you're in the Auto mode, the mode in which you can select from 11 pre-programmed stitches and 6 different fabric types. A refers to the technique, in this case, 4-thread overlock stitch. 1 indicates fabric type, woven medium. As you can see, this information is also displayed in the window. To change a sewing program, simply touch the Stitch Selection button. The settings change in accordance with the stitch and the fabric type. Selecting a fabric type is just as easy. Touch the Fabric Selection button until you find your desired fabric type. Again, the suggested machine settings change in accordance to the stitch and fabric type selected. Better yet, your Huskylock 910 will advise you when your stitch and fabric combination is not recommended, with a message in the Sewing Advisor window, Not Advised. Please note, the suggested standard settings for each stitch and fabric type are just those, suggestions. Always test sew on a scrap of your project's fabric to first determine if the settings are appropriate. For this exercise, return back to Auto A1, or 4-thread overlock woven medium fabric. Now let's walk step by step through the recommended settings. Again, you're in the Auto mode, Stitch A, or 4-thread overlock, Fabric 1 woven medium. The next setting is stitch length, which should be set at N or normal 2.5 millimeters. Differential feed located above the stitch length dial should also be at N or normal. The next setting refers to the stitch finger. The stitch finger is the wide pin located on the far right of the needle plate. Stitches form around the stitch finger. For a 4-thread overlock stitch, your stitch finger should be set at N or normal. Continuing, the next setting is needles. You need both your right and left needles to sew a 4-thread overlock stitch. The letters in the window correspond to the markings on the needle bar, just above the appropriate needle. C for left needle and D for right needle. Your stitch width or cutting width should be N or normal. Lastly, your Sewing Advisor suggests the appropriate thread tensions. Your thread tension should be set at N or normal for left needle, N or normal for right needle, N or normal for upper looper, and N or normal for lower looper. Now fold a woven medium weight fabric in half. Place the fabric under the presser foot with the folded edge to the right. Lower your presser foot and serge a 4-thread overlock seam. At the end of your seam, chain off for several inches. Do not pull at the threads because you may bend or break your needles. Cut the thread chain using the thread cutter on the left side of your serger. Examine your sample to ensure your tension settings are correct. The upper looper or green thread should be flat on top of the fabric and lock with the lower looper or blue thread along the edge of the fabric. The lower looper or blue thread should be flat on the underside of the fabric and lock with the upper looper or green thread along the edge of the fabric. The needle thread should lie mainly on the top of the fabric, like rows of normal straight sewing. Thread tensions will vary according to the type and thickness of your thread and fabric. In most cases, these tensions will only vary slightly. Turning the tension dial to a lower number gives you less tension, and a higher number, more tension. Or, depending upon your fabric, you may need to adjust your presser foot pressure. The presser foot pressure lever is located on the left side of the machine. This controls how much push your presser foot puts on your fabric. Test your stitch on a scrap of your project's fabric first. Depending upon the type of fabric you're using, you may want to adjust your stitch length. The stitch length dial is located on the right side of your Husqvarna Huskylock. You can adjust your stitch length from 0.8 millimeters for rolled edge to 5 millimeters. A normal stitch length for woven medium weight fabrics is 2.5 millimeters, or N. The higher the number, the longer the stitch length. To practice adjusting the stitch length, turn your stitch length dial to 5 millimeters. Fold your woven medium weight fabric in half. Place your fabric under the presser foot. Serge along the edge, stopping every inch, decreasing the stitch length. Use a short stitch length on lightweight fabrics. Longer stitch lengths can be used for specialty techniques such as gathering and on heavier fabrics. Before proceeding to the next technique, return your stitch length to 2.5 millimeters, or N. The distance between the needle and the outer edge of the fabric is called stitch width or cutting width. The stitch or cutting width dial on your Husqvarna Huskylock is located just below the throat plate. You can set your cutting width between 5 to 7 millimeters depending upon the type of fabric or technique. As you turn the dial, your cutting blade moves. Normal stitch or cutting width is 5.5 millimeters, or N, on the stitch or cutting width dial. An arrow on the machine indicates your selected cutting width. To practice, adjust your cutting width by turning the dial to 5 millimeters. Use a woven medium weight fabric. Serge along one edge of your fabric. Now, adjust your stitch or cutting width to 7 millimeters. Serge along the opposite edge of your fabric. This adjustment allows you to achieve the best stitch possible on all fabric types. If thread loops form off the edge of your fabric, turn your stitch or cutting width dial to a higher number. Less fabric will be trimmed away. Or if your fabric puckers with the overlock seam, turn the dial to a lower number, cutting away more fabric as you sew. Before proceeding to the next technique, return your stitch or cutting width dial to 5.5 millimeters, or N. To secure the beginning of a seam, fold your woven medium weight fabric in half. Stitch 2 to 3 stitches into the fabric, then stop sewing. Raise the presser foot. Bring the chain around and back under the presser foot and toward the cutter. Lower the presser foot. Sew, catching the thread chain in your seam and cutting off the excess chain. To secure the end of a seam, sew to the end of the fabric. Raise the foot to release the thread tensions and pull the fabric 1 inch from the foot toward the back. Insert the fabric back under the foot about 1 inch from the end and serge over the previous stitching, locking your seam. Most ends are secured during garment construction, therefore it's not always necessary to lock ends. Differential feed prevents puckering on lightweight fabrics and stretching of knits, which may occur when serging. Your Huskylock has 2 sets of feed teeth. Each set of feed teeth has an individual feed mechanism, enabling the feeding of the fabric at a different ratio. A 1-to-1 ratio, or N normal, finds each set of feed teeth feeding at the same pace. When you set your differential feed to a lower number like 0.5, the front feed teeth run slower than the back feed teeth, holding the fabric taut under the presser foot. A higher number like 2.5 is the opposite, running your front feed teeth faster than the back, pushing the fabric together underneath the foot. This dial located on the right-hand side of your Husqvarna Huskylock adjusts the differential feed. Use a lower number to prevent puckering when serging lightweight fabrics. With your differential feed set at N or normal, serge one side of a silky fabric like tricot. There may be slight puckering. Now, turn your differential feed dial to the lower setting of 0.5. Serge another seam along the other side of the same fabric. The seam will be pucker-free. A higher differential feed setting, or larger number of 2.0 to 2.5, eliminates wavy seams when serging stretch knits, such as ribbing or sweater knits. To begin, set the differential feed to the N or normal setting. Using a piece of stretchy knit fabric, serge with the stretch of the fabric. Your seam will stretch and wave. Change your differential feed to a higher setting of 2.5. Serge the opposite edge of your sample. This seam will lie flat. With your differential feed set at 2.5, place a piece of lightweight woven fabric under the presser foot and serge 1 inch. Place the forefinger of your left hand behind the presser foot and apply a small amount of pressure to the fabric as it emerges from under the presser foot. After the length of fabric has been gathered, leave about a 10 to 12 inch thread tail as you may wish to adjust your gathers. Neatly finished and adjustable gathers perfect for ruffles around a pillow or for gathering a skirt. The 3-thread overlock seam affords maximum stretch on knits or a lighter edge finish for medium to lightweight fabrics. Let's refer to the sewing advisor to set your Huskylock to perform a 3-thread overlock stitch. In the auto mode, touch your stitch selection button to bring up the 3-thread wide overlock stitch. Again, your stitch selection button is indicated by the drawn stitch. A B should appear in your sewing advisor window next to the auto mode. Next, check your fabric selection. For this technique, use a knit medium weight fabric. To select your fabric, simply touch the Fabric Selection button. This is the button located above the drawing of the square of fabric. A number 4 will appear next to the Auto mode and stitch letter. Your sewing advisor should now say Auto B4. Once your technique and fabric are selected, rely upon your sewing advisor to guide you every step of the way. Your stitch length should be set at N or normal. Differential feed at 1.5. Stitch finger in the N position. The next setting is needles. For a wide 3-thread overlock stitch, your sewing advisor suggests you use only the left or C needle. 2 separate screws indicated by C for left needle and D for right needle hold the needles in your Husqvarna Huskylock. To remove the right or D needle, bring your needles to the highest position. With the needle still threaded, use the Allen wrench in your accessory box to loosen the D or right needle screw. Leaving your needle threaded ensures you will not drop the needle down into the machine. Slide the needle straight down out of the needle shaft. Retighten the D screw. Now, snip the right needle thread. Place the needle in a safe spot like the accessory box. Unthread the right needle tension. Continuing, your stitch and cutting width should be set at N or normal. Then, check the tension settings. You'll notice a blank space for the right needle tension setting. This means the right needle thread will not be used for this technique. Fold and knit medium weight fabric in half and serge a 3-thread overlock seam. The 3-thread overlock stitch is perfect for finishing edges before garment construction, preventing raveling of your fabric plus providing a more professional finish inside your garment. Your serger has unlimited decorative possibilities using different threads like metallic, top stitching, pearl cotton, and rayon threads, or fine yarns or embroidery floss to embellish an edge. Use decorative threads in the upper and or lower loopers. Thread decorative or specialty thread through the upper looper. Pearl crown rayon thread is being used here. As mentioned, use the thread net to prevent your thread from slipping off the spool. When working with heavier decorative threads, you'll need to loosen your tension. The general rule is the heavier the thread, the lower the tension number. This would also be an ideal time to sew at half speed. Due to the weight of the thread, your stitch will be more consistent at a reduced speed. Simply flip your sewing speed switch located on the right-hand side of your serger. Select Knit Medium using the Fabric Selection button on your sewing advisor. Refer to your sewing advisor for recommended settings. Again, your tensions will vary according to the weight of thread you use. Stitch length N or normal. Differential feed 1.5. Needle C or left needle. Stitch or cutting width N or normal. And your tensions. Again, depending upon the weight of your thread, you may need to adjust your tensions. Serge a decorative edge. When using a combination of regular and heavy decorative threads, it may be necessary to make tension adjustments. Be sure to test sew your stitch on a scrap of your project's fabric. The very versatile flatlock stitch is used to eliminate bulk and seams as a nice decorative touch or to attach lace to silky lingerie fabric. Consult your sewing advisor to sew a flatlock stitch. In the auto mode, touch the Stitch Selection button to select 3-thread flatlock stitch indicated by the letter D. Use your Fabric Selection button to choose your fabric, a woven medium fabric. Your sewing advisor window will read Auto D1. Now set your machine according to your sewing advisor. Stitch length 3.0. Differential feed N or normal. Stitch finger N or normal. Left needle or C. Stitch or cutting width N or normal. Tensions are 1 for left needle, 5 for upper looper, and 9 for lower looper. The flatlock stitch is reversible. If the flatlock stitch is desired on the right side of your fabric, as shown here, fold the fabric in half with the wrong side together. If the latter stitch is desired on the right side of your fabric, fold the fabric in half with the right side together. For this technique, reduce your sewing speed. This will allow you better control so you can catch just the right amount of fabric within the stitching. Fold your fabric, wrong sides together. Place your fabric under the presser foot with the fold along the right edge of the needle plate. Sew the seam without trimming your fabric. For best results, allow the stitches to loop slightly off the edge. Pull your fabric flat. Increasing your lower looper tension and decreasing your needle tension allows your upper looper stitches to lay flat when you pull your fabric. Flip the fabric over to reveal the ladder stitch. The ladder stitch is an equally nice decorative touch, plus perfect for attaching lace to lingerie fabric like in ready-made. This technique is a wonderful embellishment on all fabric types, especially knits, including sweatshirt fleece. Consult your sewing advisor for recommended settings. You may wish to use the optional blind hem foot to guide you in stitching. This foot has an adjustable flange for guiding your fabric edge, eliminating the possibility of cutting the fabric. A rolled edge uses the right needle plus a narrow stitch finger to create a narrow satin roll on the edge of soft fabrics such as a crepe de chine, georgette, silk, and lightweight materials. Your Husqvarna Huskylock has a built-in rolled edge feature for quick and easy setup. No fumbling with changing feet or thread plates. First, switch your Huskylock to full sewing speed. Huskylock 910 owners select 3-thread rolled edge on your sewing advisor. letter E. Scroll through your fabric types and select Woven Light or number 3. Your Sewing Advisor window will read Auto E3. Stepping through the recommended settings, set your stitch length to 1.0. Differential feed at 0.8. A rolled edge is very dense, and therefore the stitching may pucker your lightweight fabric. Stitch finger R. The stitch finger lever is located at the front of the throat plate. Simply pull the stitch finger lever toward you to remove the wide stitch finger and expose the small stitch finger. This smaller pin rolls the stitches to the underside of your fabric. Use only the right or D needle. Stitch or cutting width is 6.0. And tension settings of N for right needle, N for upper looper, and 7 for lower looper. Place your woven lightweight fabric under the presser foot and serge along one edge. Your tightened lower looper actually pulls your upper looper thread around the narrow stitch finger, causing the edge of the fabric and stitches to roll. Decorative threads like silky rayons, metallics, pearl cottons, or woolly nylons used here create a nice edge on napkins, hems, or even pin tucks on a blouse. Very versatile Husqvarna Huskylock models 905 and 910 add even more practicality and creative options with two-thread overlock capabilities. To prepare for serging a two-thread rolled edge, use your Sewing Advisor and select two-thread rolled edge using the Stitch Selection button, letter J. The two-thread rolled edge is a perfect delicate accent for fine or light fabrics. Touch the Fabric Selection button to Woven Light Material, number 3. Your Sewing Advisor will read Auto J3. Setting up, check your stitch length. It should now be set at 0.8. Differential feed at 0.8. Stitch finger should be at R from the last technique. The Sewing Advisor recommends using the right or D needle. Stitch or cutting width at N or normal. Tension should be set at 3 for right needle and N for lower looper. You'll notice only the needle and lower looper are used for two-thread serging. Unthread the upper looper thread from the tension disc. In your accessory box is a two-thread converter. The converter has a small prong which fits into the eye of the upper looper. The prong tricks the lower looper into believing the upper looper is threaded. Open the front cover of your Husqvarna Huskylock. Move the upper looper to its highest position by turning the hand wheel toward you. Hold the converter so the long tab faces left. Slide the converter down onto the wide part of the upper looper. Now adjust the long tab so the prong fits or snaps into the upper looper eye. Close the front cover. Serge along the edge of a piece of woven lightweight fabric. Use the two-thread rolled edge for lightweight fabrics when you want the lightest possible edge. It's perfect for silky scarves and pin tucks. Pin tucks are sewn along the edge of folded fabric and are a delicate touch for blouses, lingerie, and even children's clothing. You can use the right needle for narrow pin tucks or the left needle for wide pin tucks. Mark and press the pin tucks before sewing. Place the fabric under the presser foot with the edge in line with the side of the stitch plate. Sew. The tuck is then pressed to one side. For best results, use the optional blind hem foot. The blind hem foot has an adjustable flange in which your folded fabric rides against a guide. The two-thread wide overlock stitch serges a lightweight seam. Consult the Sewing Advisor. Touch the Stitch Selection button to find two-thread wide overlock stitch. Then, select a fabric type like woven medium. The Sewing Advisor then suggests a stitch length of 3.0. The differential feed at N or normal. stitch finger setting says N or normal. Simply push the stitch finger lever back to replace the wide stitch finger. Remove the right or D needle and insert the left or C needle. Stitch or cutting width is N or normal. And your tension should be set at 1 for upper looper and 5 for lower looper. Now serge the 2-thread overlock stitch along the folded edge of your fabric. As you can see, a 2-thread overlock stitch has small V's on the underside for a nice light finish. Let's learn more about the manual and memory modes of your Husqvarna Huskylock Model 910 by setting up your serger to sew a popular edging, a mock blanket stitch. Use your sewing advisor to select a 2-thread wide overlock stitch. Now choose Knit Heavy for your fabric. To alter your settings, you need to be in the manual mode. Touch the cursor or arrow button to enter the manual mode. You'll see your fabric and stitch selection remain the same. The changeable number is blinking. For this technique, you need to lengthen your stitch to 5.0. To change the stitch length setting, use the plus or minus buttons to find your desired setting. To advance to the next setting, Differential Feed, touch the cursor or arrow button. Again, the changeable setting is blinking. Scroll through the different settings using the plus or minus button. You'll notice the settings change in single increments. This wide range of differential feed settings allows you to perfectly serge an array of fabric weights and types. For this technique, change your differential feed to 1.5. Moving forward, touch the cursor or arrow button to the next setting, Stitch Finger. Use the plus or minus buttons to adjust your setting if necessary. The blanket stitch requires your stitch finger to be at N or normal. To advance again, touch the cursor or arrow key for adjusting your needle setting. Depending upon your desired stitch width, select the right or left needle. For this technique, change your setting to the C or left needle. Your stitch or cutting width should be set at the widest or 7.0. And then your tensions. Again, the changeable setting is blinking. The cursor advances to 1 tension at a time, left to right. Use the plus or minus buttons to scroll through the settings and make your adjustments. As you move forward touching the cursor or arrow button, you jump from left needle to lower looper. Remember, you selected a wide 2-thread overlock stitch for this particular technique. This stitch requires only the 2 tensions. 0 for the left needle and 6 for the lower looper. Place a strip of water-soluble stabilizer on top of your fabric. Sew, catching the stabilizer in your stitch. Pull the stabilizer to the underside of your fabric to reveal a mock blanket stitch. Determine if you like the settings. With perfect results and all your adjustments in place, save your new program into one of the empty memories. To do this, simply touch the M or memory button. If the memory is already used, the memory number will blink and the message Overwrite OK also blinks in your LCD window. This means your new program will delete anything you had in this memory. If this is the case, simply touch the M or the memory button. If you do not want to overwrite or delete what's stored in this memory, press the plus button to advance to an empty memory. If the blinking memory is empty, a memory empty message will appear. Memories are created and filled sequentially. Once a memory is created, it will remain in your serger. In other words, if you created only 5 memories and then deleted one of the 5, you will not be able to create a 6th memory until all 5 are filled. Once you discover an empty memory, the message Memory Empty will flash in your Sewing Advisor window. Again, if this is the memory you wish to store your new setting in, touch the M or memory button. The memory number will blink several times. Once it stops, your settings have been saved. Or perhaps you decide you do not want to save this new program. To exit the memory mode, simply touch A or Auto. You're now back in the Auto mode, where you can select from the 11 pre-programmed stitches. Your memories are permanent, storing your settings even after the machine is turned off. To retrieve a memory, touch the M or Memory button. The last memory you used will appear with any settings you may have previously saved. Select the memory you want by touching the plus or minus buttons. Only memories with previously saved settings will appear. If you mistakenly touch the cursor or arrow button and the manual mode appears while searching for a memory, simply touch A to return to the auto mode and begin again by touching M or Memory. To empty a memory, select the memory you wish to delete by pressing the plus or minus buttons. Then simultaneously press the Stitch and Fabric Selection buttons. The message, Memory Will Clear, now blinks in your Sewing Advisor's LCD window. If you decide not to delete the memory, just release both buttons. To empty the memory, touch the M or Memory button while you continue to hold the Stitch program and the Fabric Selection buttons. Memory Empty appears, and the deletion is complete. Press the A or Auto button for standard settings. For peak performance for years to come, care for your Husqvarna Huskylock like you would any piece of fine machinery. Always turn your machine off before performing any type of maintenance. Change needles often. Invisible burrs on needles affect the quality of your sewing. Often, a new needle is the answer to a number of questions. Use your lint brush to clean dust out of the inside of your machine after completing a project. Here you'll want to disengage the cutter. To do this, first remove the flatbed cover. Next, place your hand underneath the free arm cover and pull in the direction of the arrow. This will expose the upper cutter knob. To disengage, push the knob in and roll it downward until it's in its lowest position. The upper cutter is sharp, so care should be taken when moving this part. Never sew with the cutter disengaged. Be sure to put the cutter back up before sewing. To ensure the continued smooth and quiet operation of your Huskylock, some of the moving parts must be lubricated with sewing machine oil. If you regularly use your machine, oil it once a month. Frequent users should oil the machine once a week. Always run fabric through your machine to remove all excess oil before starting a new project.